In your view, was or was not communism a catastrophic failure?
Total failure.
Total failure.
Total
so why
failure.
do you still call yourself a communist?
Because what I think is that communism was an answer to a series of problems. It looked throughout 1990s, for a decade, we had what I ironically refer to as the Fukuyama dream. We were
Francis Fukuyama. We've reached the end of history.
Yes. He was not as stupid, as naive as he somewhat sometimes portrayed. Yes, he's not saying, oh, it's the end. He knows things are still moving,
Sure.
but his idea is just that with liberal democratic capitalism, we found, if not the best possible, at least the least bad system.
And he suggested that here was a global consensus, and that it would gather in people across the world.
My thesis is, what we witness in the new century is the gradual disintegration of this consensus. For me, wouldn't you agree that even the majority of leftists today, they are let's call them ironically, Fukuyama leftists? Because nobody even talks today, about these old big questions. Is capitalism here to stay? Is democracy, is the state here to stay? In the same way that
I would absolutely agree with you, and I would therefore conclude that you are desperately and terribly isolated today.
I'm not as isolated, unfortunately, as it may appear to be, because, just let me finish. So the majority of in the same way that when I was young at least, we were dreaming about, remember, socialism with a human face. Now it is as if our utmost horizon is global capitalism with a human face. So and here we come to a point, the only serious question that I see today is precisely this one. Is, in the broadest terms, the liberal democratic capitalist framework the absolute horizon, so that we can make it better, more tolerant, better welfare, but we stay? Or are there phenomena for which it is reasonable to surmise that even in the long or even in the mid-term, it will not be possible to resolve them or even to cope with them within this frame? I think there are.
And your argument seems to be that in the last decade we have seen two hugely symbolic events, symbolic but also very real events, which have undermined and exposed the vulnerability of liberalism and capitalism. That is the sort of bookends of the decade, the 9/11, and then at the other end of the decade,
the first
financial
one,
collapse.
the end of, let's call it this naive belief in liberal democracy as the universal answer, the end of the decade, the financial crisis as the end of this at least naive economic liberalism.
And I would put it to you that far from being the exposing of liberal capitalism's weakness, what we have seen with both, in many ways, is the resilience, the adaptability, and the long-running strength of liberalism and capitalism.
Let me make something clear. I'm fully aware, I'm not one of those crazy leftists who thought a year ago, oh, you see, the crisis is here, let's get ready for the next phase, socialism or whatever. I am also fully aware of how, except of some old Keynesian formulas, I'm not aware of any convincing radical left alternatives.